Greetings, everybody. I am back, kind of. It's been a deep few weeks, and I've been getting a lot of messages in the last few days, specifically coming from Mother Earth. I know we're seeing some extreme weather in recent weeks, lots of floods, huge earthquakes, tsunamis, and the message I'm getting is really strongly paired with masculine and feminine dynamics, and typically we see the Earth as a feminine entity, Mama Gaia, Mother Earth. And she's pissed. I noticed in the last few weeks, and the reason I stopped doing videos is because the energies were so whoa, 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 and I would do card readings, and everything was in contradiction to each other. And it was a lot. I spent a couple weeks in nature, camping, swimming in rivers, just being with the earth as much as possible. And I didn't feel the same type of grounding that I usually do. I didn't feel the same type of cleansing that I usually do when I swim in her waters. It all felt good, and it was great to be outside, but I didn't feel held by the earth presence per the typical grounding. Now, a lot of advice is always like, just go ground, put your feet on the earth. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel supported in the same way. What I was finding is the way that I felt most supported in the recent weeks was through connecting with other like-minded people, and even some people, especially women, who were also experiencing in their bodies unknown anxiety, just feeling very anxious for no particular reason. I, for myself, felt the worst anxiety I've had in at least a year, and I'd been doing a lot of therapy and work, and I'm like, where is this all coming from? I feel like I'm being chased by a lion again. There's just a lion about to pounce on me at any given moment. And usually nature's the remedy, but I wasn't able to shift it. Through my own deliberate practices. I just kind of had to be with the flow. I don't know much about the Schumann earth resonance, but I was sent multiple videos about how it was off the charts, and it was in this white light zone that they couldn't measure it the same as they usually do. Again, I don't know a lot about that, but I found it very interesting that multiple people sent it to me, and the captions and stuff with it really resonated with this same concept of what is going on. So I wanted to hop on here today because in the last week I've been noticing a few things. One is the importance of sharing our stories. Now, it's also important to alchemize our stories. We don't always need to tell our stories when we're in the emotion, when we're in the thick of it. But once we've had some, removal, to be able to tell the stories and to work on alchemizing it. For me, it's been really important to check in with other women in, the or people who can identify these different polarities of the masculine and feminine and how we're wired different. And I've come back to where I was born, and spending time with a lot of people, and a lot of my friends have had kids, and we're talking about the difference between the little girls and little boys and how they run around. And then we're also talking about the non-binary and the trans, and how these things are transitioning. And my belief here in this, and what I am getting from spirit is Earth is really mad at man. And this, we're talking about that toxic masculine energy. Now, I've done a lot of reading and understanding and work on my own self, and attachment styles and anxious avoidance and all of these things. And what I'm really coming to understand is so much in this dynamic is that the earth, the feminine energy, the wife, has done a lot traditionally over the years to accommodate man. So I'm getting a lot of Lysistrata energy. It's a lot of the feminine energy is waking up to this point of just actually, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. I mean, the amount of stories that I've heard and I've witnessed and I've myself been a part of being cheated on, lied to, manipulated, gaslit, all of these, and these are all words to describe behaviors. There's no judgment here on that, but at some point you have to observe when something is is a dying energy. You know, it is a toxic energy, that it is depleting versus nurturing, versus giving. And, you know, we're wired for life. We're wired for expansion. We're not really wired to like want to contract. And I think that this is a very hard dynamic. And I've been really upset in hearing some different stories of different behaviors that have gone down, and even observing it from, you know, men I know, love, and respect, and how unconscious this behavior, some of these behaviors are. And how much women have accommodated to the years. And, you know, it starts off small. It's like these little accommodations at first, and then it's just like, you know, this big accommodations, and that our needs and our things aren't really getting met. You know, we're meeting the avoidance, we're giving the space, but the anxiety and the, like, you know, requests aren't always being met on the other end. Or just, you know, on a bigger thing, the, you know, the commitment, the fidelity, the honesty, the transparency. And I had you know, some very vivid dreams last night about the masculine feminine dynamic. And it's, you know, like, some of the stuff that happens is about growth. It is about, like, you know, pushing forward to new horizons. You know, sometimes like a break in a relationship can bring people closer together ultimately, you know, through a series of revelations and realizations and all of that. But it can also break and split the relationship to the point where, like, that is no longer necessary or available. But the reason I guess I felt called to give this energetic update is because the earth herself is pissed, and she's not taking it and tolerating it anymore. And we're going to keep seeing more and more extreme weather. And, you know, if you want to call it global warming or climate change or any of that, I don't know enough about any of that. I'm talking from the energetic perspective, because that's how I understand things. And that's, you know, I don't understand through reading, listening to the news, or reading articles on this stuff. Like, I kind of experience it in my body. So it's coming from this way instead of this way. And you need to find, you know, your research to whatever helps you understand it. Or maybe you have your own downloads similar to me, or maybe these updates are helpful for you. You know, I think that a lot of times energy healers, they're like, oh, what I'm sharing is truth. Well, it's truth from the perspective that I'm coming to understand it, and it is a piece of this larger puzzle. And some people need multiple pieces of the puzzle to understand it, and other people don't. So I just like to go into that, because I've been judged a lot for like, oh, well, how do you just know that? What's the thing? And I'm like, this is just how I'm wired and understanding things. Anyway, the earth is pissed. She's mad at man because she's been accommodating all of this bad behavior. She's been accommodating her resources being depleted. She's been accommodating her soils being polluted, her water being polluted. And enough is enough. And I don't have the solution to what it is that we need to do. I think it relates to the collective of the masculine and feminine and how we navigate within our homes. Now, sometimes the solution is to leave. Sometimes it is working through. It is being more deliberate. It's speaking the truth. I was talking to a male the other day, and he's like, yeah, or we could just listen to females. And then we had a conversation in which he didn't listen to the females in the conversation for a long, extended period of time. So it's like, I don't know what the request is. I know that the request is something's got to give. This isn't going to work anymore. And it literally will not be tolerated anymore. I know for my own system, I've also, you know, I did a somatic massage practice the other day, and I was having, I was like, I'm mad at the patriarchy. And I'm not like that type of activist or feminist. I don't identify with any of those labels. But I was just like, the images I was getting were of men invading specifically America. I know it's happened all over the world, but of the white men like invading America and just taking and taking and taking. And that can't happen anymore. We have to stop that mode of being. We have to call each other out on that mode of being. And sometimes those conversations are hard, and they may or may not be heard, but kind of like advertising, like the more you're exposed to the image, the more you start to understand like how that image is affecting you. For me, in my own relationship dynamics that have been toxic or abusive, you know, the call back to self is like, why am I tolerating it? Like, why I am choosing to stay as a part of this dynamic, but why am I tolerating it? What keeps me here, you know? And of course there's multiple layers of doing the healing work, you know. There is, you know, doing the therapy, the CBT, the EMDR, like working on that level. Imago work, you know, you got to find the therapy style that resonates for you. So you know, you can work on that level, because you know there is a conscious understanding that we need to do. But we also have to get into doing the karmic healings, like, and clearing our lineages, both for our soul and for our bloodlines, um and and then doing the energy work of like the vibrational reset. You know, I know there's a lot of talk about the people who are intergenerational curse breakers and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of us came here to do the work, and it's been an intense pressure on us to get the work. You know, it's never done, but to do the work. And I think there's also been a stepping back of like, actually, no, other people need to start awakening up to this truth and do their piece of it. Like we've done, like us energy workers, light workers, star seeds, you know, however you identify, we have been doing the work so hard, and we have created a level of clearing that now it feels manageable for other people to start to have those awakenings and those shifts of consciousness, so they too are doing the work. Everybody is capable of doing this, and everybody is capable of waking up. Now, I don't like the waking up. Sometimes that term can be so polarizing, you know, like, oh, well, they're asleep. Like, they don't know what I know. But there is a distinct moment for the people who are on the spiritual path where you just come into a different understanding of how Earth works, of how energy works, of how these things move. And I'm certain that that can shift. We've seen people like Doreen Virtue, I think, have like the opposite thing. You know, she was understanding it this way, and then she's like, oh, that's not what it is anymore, and then shifted into a different pole. And sometimes it's just like we go down these different paths of study to understand, you know, how different energy flows, because like our energy within that flow is helping move the catalyst. Now, but I also think that like the pressure for the light workers and everybody to do the work is also feeding this same dynamic of what's going on in the households, you know, between the masculine and feminine dynamics. Now, again, I'd say that not, you know, what we are in sex, but in these different charges. There's a specific charge that we call masculine. There's a specific charge that we call feminine, yin and yang. You know, this has been around for a long time. Now, we talk about those dynamics, and, you know, each person holds their own yin and yang polarity, and then within a relationship, there's also a dynamic that's flowing. Or within an institution, there's also a dynamic that's flowing. Yin and yang informs all things that we do, and we really want to have, you know, a steady flowing river that's healthy, and it's abundant, and it's flowing. It's not creating stagnant pools of water. It's not flooding the banks. It's not being held where it's not meant to be. So really think about this river metaphor as it relates to the yin and yang, to the masculine and feminine. The masculine is the banks. He holds the structure in which the water is meant to flow. But if it's not working, it will flood. And sometimes the floods are regenerative, and sometimes they're destructive, and sometimes they're both. All right, just as we have with the other elements that are going on. You know, we've had extreme fires this year. We've had, you know, extreme hurricanes. Like the weather, listen, it's nature talking to us. It's the earth, like, just saying enough is enough. You know, I'm not going to hold you idiots if you're not going to hold and cherish me. I watched a TV show a few months ago, and it's called Sweet Tooth, and it's a little, you know, fantasy about where these hybrid children are born, and these hybrids are half animal, half human. And, you know, throughout the course of the show, there's a lot of, you know, things of like the me's and the we's and the survival and the like community, and looking at these different ways of being. And I just, you know, I know most of you watching this video, and, you know, we're 14 seconds in, you know, like we're in this, and we're in this together. And I know most of you who are drawn to my work are doing the work, and you are probably more we consciousness. But the invitation too is like, look, the we consciousness sometimes has to come back to the me as well. So look to the ways that you're caring for yourself. Look to the ways that you're caring for the earth. how can you contribute? How can you maybe stop? I think I've also heard a lot of women talking about feeling guilty, even if they're having health issues, for having to slow down or to just, be. And I think the invitation as we move more into this new earth paradigm is also really like, what if living is just about being? Nature does a lot of the work for us and is happy to do so, just as when I do energy clearings. Like, I understand that this is my service. This is how I'm able to give abundantly at this time when it's in alignment. Just as a fruit tree says, hey, look at all this, it's all for you. And there's some, if you're gardening, that might take a little more nurturing or a little more direct, thing. But also, if you let a garden go wild, things will grow. And it just kind of happens. So where can you release control and just kind of let things happen? Where can you be an observer of the process that's unfolding at this time? And as we go into this new earth process, how can you really just allow yourself to be? What if life was as simple as just spending time next to a river or in a river swimming? What if it was about just catching the fish for food tonight, picking the fruit from the trees? I think that we as humans right now are shedding so much survival and control techniques, and we're seeing it in our households. And I think we need to share more of our direct stories about it and, talk about the anxiety we're experiencing, and not only with each other, but also, with the people whom the dynamics occur with. So those are my invitations for today. I just wanted to share that because I've been getting these big downloads, and I don't even know that I've been able to articulate it clearly, but it's a good practice in trying. And let me know in the comments how you've been doing. You can always send me an email as well. I love to connect. And I'm on the road because I'm just kind of following where I'm meant to be at this time. And I'm also feeling weird about that. It's like, oh, I gotta get back to business and work. And it's like, but do I? Is that the job right now? So anyway, I wish you all many blessings. Closing the video at 17:17.